Go down Emmanuel Road, gallant boy, figure broke rock stone. Go down Emmanuel Road, gallant boy, figure broke rock stone. Hey, broke them one by one, gallant boy, broke them two by two, gallant boy, broke them three by three, gallant boy. uh, Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Jamaican Geologist YouTube channel. This is episode 7 in the Geology Foundation series, and today, if you haven't already guessed it from my out of tune singing, we will be talking about rocks. I opened with one of our Jamaican folk songs, which is part of a ring game that children used to play in the island back in the day. What would happen is that the children would sit forming a circle and they would pass little rocks around the circle, increasing the speed and adding more rocks to increase the difficulty and, of course, add to the fun. If you want to hear a better rendition of the song, I have linked a video in the description from the National Library of Jamaica in which one of our cultural icons, the late, great, the Honorable Louise Bennett Coverley, sings the song and breaks down the game for you in a way only she can. Rock, stone, or rock stone, whatever you choose to call it, they have a lot of cultural and historical significance, as you will see in this video. They are tremendously valuable in various scientific inquiry as well. We started the series with elements, then we did 3 episodes on minerals, and now today we are on a new chapter, rocks. I'm excited and I hope you are too, so let's get started. So in the English language, you often hear the terms rock and stone used interchangeably. In Jamaican parlance, you often hear people group both words together, rock stone. So my question here is, are these terms the same thing? And I guess the answer is yes and no. Let's start with the Jamaican expression rock stone. I've heard this used in several contexts. I've heard it most often used as a noun for the stuff we pick up from the ground that is outside in nature or whatever. You know, like someone might fling rock stone at something, or, which I don't condone, at someone. I also remember this very old Jamaican phrase that folks like my grandparents would say, hard is pitting yam rock stone, which translates to disobedient children or people will learn the hard way. Rockstone has even been used as an interjection, an expression of great surprise, shock, or exasperation. You don't really hear it as much these days, but an example would be, Rockstone, I can't believe I missed the show. Or, Rockstone, I burn my hand on the stove. You hear this expression mostly with more mature folks, and it's not as common with the younger crowd. Anyway, other than just rocks on the ground outside, there are several references in Jamaican music and culture, like the folk song in the intro of this episode, and even more contemporary songs like Stephen Marley did this song with Capleton and Sizzler. It's called Rockstone. It was done some years ago, and he says the lyrics are, Rockstone was my pillow, speaking of the hardships that people have faced throughout history and or people still continue to face today. Okay, let's talk about the terms separately as they tend to be used in the English language. What is a rock and what is a stone? And are there any differences? Well, the term rock is what is commonly used in geology. A rock can simply be defined as an amalgamation or collection of minerals within a solid, and it occurs in nature. Some So the minerals which we have been discussing so far this series are what make up the rocks. The word stone now refers to a small piece of a rock, especially one that has been shaped for some purpose by a human being. So simply put, a rock is untamed, natural, and raw, and stone can be used to describe a piece of a rock that's refined for some purpose. Let's think about this for a second. You are driving along a highway and you hear a rock fall, which is a type of landslide, and we will talk about this later in the series. But a retaining wall, which is used to withstand such movements of the earth, are built with masonry stone. There is the word bedrock, which is used for the underlying natural rock in an area. There is cornerstone, which is traditionally used in foundation design of masonry work and is often the first stone laid. There is gravestone and headstone used to mark the final resting place of our loved ones who have departed this life. There is wall rock, a word used when talking about the rock lining a mineral vein or igneous intrusion. There are a few exceptions to this, of course, but the general rule of thumb is that rocks are raw, natural, and untouched, and stone is used when a piece of rock is being used for some purpose for the benefit of people. So we can say that all stones are rocks, but not all rocks are stones. I hope you get it. So now that we have addressed the nuances of terms like rock and stone and how we use these words culturally, let's focus more on the scientific aspects of the word rock. The Oxford Dictionary of Geology and Earth Sciences defines the word rock as a consolidated or unconsolidated aggregate of minerals or organic matter. The minerals may be all of one type, in which case the rock is monomineralic, or of many types, in which case it is polymineralic. From our primary school science class, we may remember that the three types of rocks are igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. All right, cool, but what does this mean again? Well, igneous rocks are those formed from the cooling or solidification of and crystallization of magmas and lavas. Metamorphic rocks are those which have been transformed or changed due to them being exposed to great heat and pressure. Sedimentary rocks form when pre-existing rock fragments come together to form new rock. This episode is just an introduction to rocks, but in the next few episodes of this series, I will do a deep dive and look at each of these categories in detail. The next few episodes promise to be exciting. So now the rock cycle is one of the most basic concepts in geology, which is why a lot of us were introduced to it in our primary school science classes. The rock cycle is the ongoing process through which rocks are formed, broken down, and transformed over time. It begins deep within the earth, where intense heat melts rock into magma. When magma rises to the surface through volcanic eruptions and cools, it hardens into igneous rock. Over time, weathering and erosion caused by wind, water, and even ice breaks down these rocks into small particles called sediments. These sediments are transported and eventually settle in layers where they get compacted or cemented together to form sedimentary rock. If sedimentary or igneous rocks are buried deep beneath the Earth's surface, they may be subjected to intense heat and pressure, which changes them into metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rocks can eventually melt again, starting the cycle over. The rock cycle has no fixed path, and any rock type can change into another depending on the conditions. This continuous transformation of rocks is how Earth naturally recycles the crust and shapes the landscape over time. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple concept, but in reality, as with many things, it's a lot more complicated and intricate, as you will see in the upcoming episodes. So why do we try to understand rocks in the first place? I mean, to the casual observer, this may seem trivial and academic, right? What does this mean for the general population going about their day to school, work, or their businesses? Well, I believe in the very first episode on this channel, I said something about rocks being the cornerstone of civilization. Apart from helping us to understand Earth processes and the processes that dictate the space in which we occupy, like our homes and communities and cities and towns in which we live or work, rocks are really what built these places to begin with. I mean, cement is made from limestone, shale, and gypsum. Roads are made from aggregate and bitumen. So understanding rocks, they really help us to understand these things. But understanding rocks also helps us to understand hazards like earthquakes, which in the Jamaican context is very relevant these days, and landslides, and how to build or not build in certain areas. So yes, to most, rocks are boring, but to those like me, they are tremendously important in how we live in our modern world, just like the minerals are. So yes, understanding rocks helps us understand Earth processes, but they are also intricately woven in our modern spaces, and sometimes without us even thinking about it. So this has been a very basic introduction to rocks. In this episode, we learned the cultural significance of rocks, the nuances of terms like rocks and stone, the scientific and societal importance of rocks, and a basic concept in geology, the rock cycle. We also scratched the surface of the three major categories of rocks, and we'll be doing a deep dive in the upcoming episodes into each category. And speaking of which, our next episode is all about igneous rocks. That should be exciting. So until next time, please take care. Bye.